Is it better to bring a lightweight tent with you versus needing a basher and a bivvy? Well, luckily for you, I've got all the measurements and weights. I'm coming from a standpoint of it being a mountain pack, not necessarily some kind of survival bug out bag. But it doesn't mean it can't have application to work there also. Now, I do enjoy this pack and all the components in it, albeit it's obviously heavier than the lightweight kit I already have. And if you do want to see the lightweight kit, it's on the channel for you to see, because there's always going to be someone saying, why have you got that? Why haven't you got the lightweight kit? I've got it. You're just not looking for it. Last night I weighed the difference between a decent lightweight large tent, such as a replica of the F2 tent, versus the bivvy bag and basher. And there's going to be pros and there's going to be cons to each, and we'll look at them as well, because I don't want you to only look at the weights. We need to look at what works and what doesn't. Here we go. We'll have a look at some components. I bought them all with me. Obviously, there'd be no need to bring a tent, a sleeping bag, and a bivvy, and all the other components I have here. But I have bought everything, so you can choose what is going to work for you best. There's no reason this system can't be used for a bug out, but this is more my mountain pack, something for the weekend where I'm going a little off trail. So I need a tougher pack, a tougher tent, and I carry my buffalo sleeping bag in one of these, but carried externally. I never use a compression bag and then put it in the pack. Doesn't make sense. Just goes under the lid, and then that way it frees up nearly 90 litres of kit space doing it like this. Not that I would require the full 90 litres just for a mountain trek for a few days. That sleeping bag is in a bit of a bivvy bag of its own, but that's going to be a different video. My head shelter might be something like this. I have the weights and measurements of this, which is British Army MTP basher. That's going to be a head shelter. I have a lighter head shelter here, which is DD, so issue and civilian, and a good tent. This is kind of reminds me of a clone of the F2, and yet this is less than 1.4 kilos, including the guys and the pegs. And yeah, there are lighter weight tents on the market. However, like I said, this is two-person. This is two-part buffalo inner and outer. It's my mountain pack, so I put a mountain sleeping bag in. If all you want to do is see lightweight trekking kit, then that's on the channel. If you want to see lightweight top quilts, it's on the channel. If you'd rather see a down instead of a synthetic, it's on the channel. You just need to find it. And in the top of my pack, I've written all the weights, and you might be surprised. These are the weights I have. This is a glasses on job for me, so I'm going to put the components on this tree trunk I'm sitting on and read you off what you're going to need. Now, you could go down the road of only having a bivvy bag and ditching the head shelter, such as the top of the basher, and that is going to save you some significant weight. A lot of people don't like doing that because you're kind of lying down all the time to stay warm and dry. I mean, cooking's not a problem. That can be done just outside the bivvy, obviously, but you can save a bit of space like that. I would probably rather ditch either the bivvy or the basher in lieu of something like a poncho, which I'm going to wear anyway to waterproof me. Then it'll double up on trekking poles to make a half pyramid shelter. And I was out for the night about a year ago, and for members, you'll have seen that camp, and it was very successful. And I haven't got the weight for that poncho, but ponchos not on the list, but could be considered. This is akin to an F2 clone, and it's a beautiful little tent, and I will do a review of it, although a lot of you have lost the art of knowing what a review is. You'd rather know why I'm going with this tent and not another one. That isn't what a review is. A review is something should be subjective opinion and let you know whether you'd want to buy this or not. So look out for the review of this. But this is coming in at tent, lines and stake, 1,375 grams. Its advertised weight is 1.4 kilos. So with the pegs and the lines, mine is lighter than the 1.4 advertised at 1,375 grams. The advantages of using a tent like this is it goes up on trekking poles. That's what makes it light. A little warmer for you inside, and this single skin just like a tarp or a basher. And provided I have an area that will accommodate the footprint, that will go up in just a few seconds. Let's have a look at the next bit of kit. Next is my MTP basher. Here it is in all its glory. When that is spread out, it has the same footprint as that tent. It's coming in at 1,425. So 100 grams heavier than the 2-person tent. You can't just use that on its own. You're going to need to add to it a bivvy bag. Now my tent does have a Pertex shell, and I can get away with not needing a bivvy bag in more clement weather, that is. But I always prefer a bivvy even over a Pertex shell sleeping bag such as this. A double sleeping bag cover like this, a bivvy, British Army Gore-Tex, somewhere around 800 grams. With this setup, assuming you have the 800 gram bivvy bag and this, we've got a combined weight. I have a combined weight of 2 kilos, 215 grams, 2215. 2215 is going to keep me dry for the night, and that's all it's doing really, blocking the wind and keeping the rain off. The only way I can see you're going to save much weight is by leaving the bivvy bag at home and then just bringing out your basher. And even that is heavier than the 2-person tent. And with my 2-person tent, it is a lot more enclosed than that for 2 people. Of course, I could save even more weight rather than leaving the bivvy bag at home, is to only bring a bivvy bag and leave the basher at home. Here's where the big weight saving comes. This one here is only 600 grams, and yet the tent 1.375. So yeah, a big weight saving if you can get away with only having a bivvy bag over your sleeping bag. That's going to keep the rain off and the wind off. So that is a really great way of doing it. Going down the road of something like this, this is a DD tarp with 6 groundhogs and a line system. I think there's somewhere around 1,500 grams, so about maybe 100 or 200 grams lighter than the British Army system. And of course, if you go for the DPM, you're going to save a bit of weight there as well, because that is bigger than the DPM. But I could marry up 1,500 grams of DD with 600 grams there. It's still heavier than the tent. combined. So what are the pros and cons now? So for my mountain pack, I already have a nylon bivy bag over a 𝒃𝒙𝒃𝒖𝒕🔥 sleeping bag, and I can go without a bivy bag and a basher. Remember, I'm going to use kind of a poncho in a half pyramid, but I'd have to have pretty, you know, clement weather for that. I don't want to be rained on for 2-3 days at a time. I would obviously address that issue accordingly. So it'd be kind of cold weather, but not raining weather, to get away with that. Pros and cons to using a basher, whether that's for a bivvy, whether that's for a mountain pack, a wild camp, or even a bug out bag, is the ability to pitch anywhere. With my tent, I'd be great anywhere here really, but I have had occasion where I just can't pitch up because it is steep or the terrain is undulating, as where if I just cover my bivy bag with something like this, or a lightweight option or lighter weight option like this, I can pretty much pitch anywhere. The tent really needs its own footprint, and here in Wales where I am, if you know anything about Wales, it's either uphill or downhill, which is why I prefer hammock camping. There are more trees than flat ground, and you know, at some areas where you are may have less trees but flat ground, so you adapt to whether you're a hammock camper or you're going to be a tent camper, and I always try and be both, but it's pretty hard. So having the ability with just a bivy bag, there'll always be just enough room for the shape of my body, the length of my body, width of my shoulders. All I have to do is lie down, and yes, I can cover the face port of a bivy bag even if it does rain. There's just tricks and tips you need to learn. If I was really bothered about wanting to seal myself in more like a tent, I could bring something like that. And this in itself, which is my DD, I think it's 3x3, yeah, 3x3, the lines, and 6 pegs, which are the MSR groundhogs, is heavier than that 2-person tent. So pros and cons. Something like this, a basher and a bivy bag, I can more or less pitch anywhere, provided the length of my body and the width of my body, I can find relatively flat ground. As where my tent does need its own standing footprint, which is quite difficult in the area I'm camping in for reasons given, because of the steep angles and undulating ground and what have you. But another way that not many people talk about, I've got husks hitting me on the head, but another advantage that absolutely nobody seems to be talking about is the advantages of using a 𝒃𝒙𝒃𝒖𝒕🔥 shell. If your sleeping bag has a 𝒃𝒙𝒃𝒖𝒕🔥 shell, it's its own bivy bag. I have used this very buffalo without a bivy bag, and then without a head shelter because I knew it wasn't going to rain, so I didn't bring the sleep sheet, and I just had a pad under that. I think all in all here, I do have the weights of that. It's somewhere around just over 3 kilos, but that's 2 sleeping bags, a nylon reflective bivy, and the compression bag to put it in. So leave your bivy bag at home and leave your basher at home. Get yourself a compression bag like this, and maybe a lightweight trekking reflective bivy bag instead. And the weight is 3175. That is 2-part sleeping bag, the compression sack, and a little lightweight bivvy bag weighing about 200 grams. So I could knock 200 grams off that, about 3 kilos. Most army style sleeping bags are going to be around that 2,000 grams anyway. So you're going to have that 2,000 grams, you're going to be adding another 800 grams bivvy bag, and then you're going to be adding another kilo again for your head shelter basher, your sleep sheet. So let's round it up to 1, 2, 3, 4 kilos. This 3, I can save a whole kilo not bringing a head shelter or a bivvy bag. I have tested this on a night camp, and if you'll remember, you'll have already seen me test that for the night. I had the tent, this very tent in there, but I didn't use the tent. It was there as an emergency measure if the Pertex failed. Remember, the Pertex is the shell that's already on the sleeping bag, and it does act very well as a windbreak. As you can see, I've opted for this type of bivvy bag, reflective, centre zip, nylon. But even without that nylon bivvy bag at just 200 grams, the Pertex makes an excellent job of keeping the cold out of the insulation. Excellent job. I find it actually a lot warmer in a sleeping bag, ditching the Gore-Tex bivvy, and there is a whole video coming up really soon. I'll try and get it out next week if I can, of the amount of times I have used my Gore-Tex bivvy bag with a sleeping bag inside to wake up cold. The chill factor, the wind chill factor, is cooling the Gore-Tex. The Gore-Tex is now cold and is now making my sleeping bag cold. So now I have a two-way battle of who's going to win. I'm a cold sleeper as it is, and I am not going to win against Mother Nature. If there's a wind chill factor that is chilling my Gore-Tex, and then my Gore-Tex is chilling my sleeping bag is chilling me, no matter how many warm cups of tea I've had the night before, the battle will be lost. But if you do like your bivvy bag and you want to extend the range of that bivvy bag both in temperature and dissipation rate, like I said, join me next week, I think it is, and we can counter that very thing of battling nature. Just one piece of kit to add to your bivvy. So that's my take on this subject matter of weighing up the difference between a bivvy bag, a tent and a basher, whether you combine them or not. You're never going to die not bringing a want, but you might die if you don't bring something you need. Until next time, take care of yourself, and I'll see you out there. Happy trails.